I actually had to drive out into the farm, and I just sat on the hillside and cried. I was on my own. We didn't say before, but Alistair's mum died in 1999.
Right, something a bit different today. We've been meaning to do this for a while, so I've got my dad here before he heads back up home tomorrow. We thought we'd sit down and just have a chat for an hour or so and talk about everything farming, from his history, kind of the family history, where he was born, go back to my grandfather, and just farming through the years. So thank you for doing this. You didn't have a choice, but anyway.
That's right.
Yep, so we've got Genna here as well to help me ask some questions, so we'll make a start. Do you want to tell us a bit about where you grew up and kind of younger years of your life, I suppose?
All right. So I was born in September 14th, 1952 at Waikari in North Canterbury. My dad had, mum and dad had a farm at Mutnea Beach, 420 acres, which is 175 hectares. Dad had drawn that farm in a rehab settlement block after the Second World War. In 1947 he went there as a 25-year-old man on his own. He grew up on the family farm at Pendarvis in mid-Canterbury, just 20 k's out of Rakaia. And so he went to the Second World War in, I think it was 1942 when he was 21, round about there, and went up through Italy into the Italy campaign. He was in the Tank Corps, 18th Battalion Armoured Regiment, and he came home, worked around the Pendarvis area for a while, and then he had the opportunity of putting his name into the ballot for a rehab farm. He was very lucky. Some of his mates didn't get them until sort of 1960, but anyway, he drew that one, and then he was on his own there for about 3 years until he met Mum. Mum, Shirley Foster. The Foster family farmed on the Omahi Saddle, and I think Dad used to go to Scargill to now and again to the RSA there, and I think he met Mum on a bus or something. So led to believe. So they got married in February 1950, and Roger came along not long after that, 9 months later, and then I was born in the September of 52. There was three brothers and two sisters. And we as kids grew up at Mutnea and on the farm. Spent a wee bit of time down at the beach. My grandparents had a bach down at Mutnea Beach, and I think it's still in the family actually. I think, but anyway, wider family. As a child, I started school at the age of 5 at Greta Valley, and I think we must have taken the bus out there, and it was a gravel road in those days out to Greta Valley. So I don't have a lot of recollections of growing up as a child or what we did, but there's some photos of early childhood days of Roger, myself and Graham sort of playing together out there.
So you took the bus to school?
Yeah.
With most of the kids?
Yeah, I think there was I'm pretty sure it must have been a bus from the beach or Mutton out there somewhere to school, to go to school. So in 1960, the dad had basically developed that farm from nothing. It was a farm that had a relocatable house on it when he went there. Part of Mutnea Station, there was six farms in the ballot block, and Dad's was the smallest one. So he developed it up from pretty much just a house or a cottage on it. And he built it up over the 14 or 15 years that he was there to a pretty highly productive farm. I think it was running about 1,000 ewes and 200 hoggets, and that was about it when he took it over.
So tell us more about the ballot. So did that come with animals? Did they just get nothing? Is it just raw land?
Just the land. Yeah, just the land. It was interesting because Dad had put his name in. It had been suggested by somebody that knew the area up there that he should put his name into the ballot, and and the ballot is basically a hat with marbles in it, and your numbers on the marble. And Dad never thought, well, he never had any likelihood of getting the ballot, so he actually never. It was in Christchurch at State Advances, I think it was, and which is then became the Rural Bank.
Oh, yeah.
It was the State Advances was
Take note
money,
of that for further on.
money lent. Yeah, they lent the money to basically. I'm not sure how many pounds that Dad put into it. Not many. But the ballot was drawn. His father actually, Dad's father went. My grandfather went up to the ballot because Dad was working, and and because Grandpa Bird was the only one there that wasn't in the ballot. They asked him to draw the ballot numbers, and Dad's number was drawn out. He drew Dad's numbers out.
Oh,
out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was quite interesting.
That was the most,
Well, you'd think there would be a bit of conflict of interest there.
Wow,
But
might have
anyway, he
unboxed
was the only one that wasn't directly
Yeah.
involved.
So, what was the land before that?
It was part of
the
Mutnea Station, which was a huge block of land. The government had taken it. The government took quite a bit of land through in those. Well, they did it in the First World War as well. After the First World War, the Second World War, they took some of the bigger stations and split them up into smaller areas for rehab for the soldiers to come back and farm on.
So the original owners, what happens with them? Do they just get told?
I'm actually not sure. It was Mutnea Station was and I presume the original owners sold it to the government.
Yeah.
Then it was balloted out. So yeah.
Where we were on the west coast, there at the end of Wilson's Lead Road, Bulls Road, some of those farms were rehab farms, small dairy farms that were split up. And then Adam Whitelock was saying yesterday that up in where they are, Horowhenua Kapiti, Manawatu, southern Manawatu, their original family farm was one of the rehab farms as well. So it must have happened quite a lot.
Yeah, well, where your granddad, Judith's
Ethel.
parents,
Yeah.
that was rehab farm.
All right.
180 acres.
Yeah, right.
Is what he drew after he managed to get that after the war.
So that was in Rongatea, between Rongatea and Palmerston North.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And then just going back to what state it was when you get it drawn.
There was a house on it, and a few paddocks, I suppose, and that was about it. There was nothing. I think there might have been one shelter belt on it, and it wasn't all flat. There was a couple of quite big gullies that ran through it.
Yeah.
But it was reasonably productive.
So he would have had to have the capital to buy the stock.
I presume he did. I'm not sure, or whether that was borrowed as well. That might have been borrowed as well. I think, and I know he said that the interest rates were 3% at that time.
Oh,
and that was for the length of the loan. But he pretty much, I think he pretty much paid the loan off within 5 years.
Oh wow!
So he was under. I think the way it worked was that you were under state advances. Like when you took over the farm, the state advances basically did all your budget, did all your banking, did all your paying of bills and all that sort of stuff. And then he said within a year he had paid off so much that they said to him, "Do you want to take the checkbook?" And he said, "Yes, please." So he had the checkbook from a year after he started. So
wow. And roughly how old would he have been then? Mid-20s?
He was 25 when he took over the farm. So 26. Wow. Yeah.
Right. So growing up in Mutnea and then moved down.
Yeah. So in 1960. It was Dad always needed a challenge, and in 1960 he'd developed that farm up to pretty much what he thought it could do. And then in 1960, we had 5 kids in the family at that stage, and another one on the way, and it wasn't big enough. So he looked around and found a block at Wairunga, inland from Waimate, about 30 k's, 30 something k's inland from Waimate. Under the Hunter Hills, and it was 1,800 acres, and it was part of a farm called, quite a big farm there called Pentland Hills, which was owned by the Meehan family, and Vic Meehan had been given this block as a 21st birthday present, and and then it was sold in 1960. The problem with that block was that there was a big homestead on it, but it burnt down some years before, so there was a tiny little 2-bedroom cottage on it when they went there, and that was it. All the rest of the infrastructure were across the road that weren't sold with the farm, the wool shed, the sheep yards, the cattle yards and stuff. So once again he started with a bare block of land. I think it was an 8 paddocks. There was a big hill block of 400 400 acres, whatever well, that'll be 170 odd hectares in one paddock, and the rest of it was cut up into 8 paddocks. Easy-ish rolling. A lot of it was easy rolling country. There was half of it that was pretty much half of the good stuff was cultivatable. So yeah, and there was some reasonable sort of size gullies in it. But yeah, so we went there in 1960 to this tiny little cottage.
So 2 bedrooms and
two
5
bedrooms
kids with
and
the
6 kids by that stage, because mum and dad shifted down there in the beginning of June, and Lindsay was born on the 4th of June, the youngest brother. Roger and I went and stayed with an aunt and uncle at Waikari for 3 months or something, and Gillian and Carolyn went and stayed with another auntie at Glenmore, where mum grew up until they got settled. Well, they did. They got settled down there, and Lindsay had some health problems when he was born, and it took.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, so and then the first thing Dad did was built on a decent sized kitchen, dining room area because the kitchen was about the size of this table, tiny. So he built on. I don't think they built any. Oh, I think they might have built 1 bedroom on and extended the kitchen. So it was a tiny place, bloody freezing cold, down the bottom of a gully, and which, anyway, we grew up there as kids for a couple of years, and then about 1960. Well, no, before that, Dad had started to develop the farm with fencing and things, and he built a main set of sheep yards, sort of in the middle of the farm. And when did he build? I built an implement shed near the house. In another hay shed, I think it was, and he still had to take the sheep across the road to the neighbour's place to shear. I can't remember when he built a wool shed that would hold 700 woolly sheep near the sheep yards, and I can't remember what year that was, but I think it was the Burnett Construction from Ashburton that built that for him. They were into building wool sheds and stuff.
So while he's still establishing all this, how does he have an income?
He never borrowed. He borrowed to buy into the farm. He never borrowed any money to develop it. It all came out of income.
So what do you get?
Well, I think I'm not sure. I can't remember. Land. He was selling. Well, 5-year-old. He would have had to buy the stock and stuff as well. I can't remember what his mortgage was.
Understandable.
But the prices. Well, for comparing today's prices were crap, but costs were so low, and there was no inflation.
Yeah.
So he managed to build a wool shed, and I'm not sure. In 1962, he built a 2,500 square foot house up on the Myers Pass Road. This other house was on, I think it was Pentland Hills Road or something or other. Anyway, so Myers Pass Road goes from Wairunga through to the Hacker Valley, and part of the farm was up on that road, so it was a beautiful spot, looking right out over the valley. So yeah, 1962 they built a 2,500 square foot house. The builders came from Christchurch. They came down from Christchurch on a Monday morning, worked all week, and then went home late Friday afternoon to Christchurch. Mum cooked for them all, fed them all. They had a couple of huts at where the other house was, the cottage that he'd put in for them to stay in. I think there must have been about 4 of them. And they had the house built and finished in 6 weeks.
So,
wow. Yeah.
Not 12 months.
No. Too many pieces of paper to fill out.
And it cost him £14,000 to build the house, so it's $28,000 to build a house of that size. 1962.
As a percentage of the income, it's still significant.
But he said he never had to, but whether he got money, I don't know, whether there was some family money that was sort of given to him, I don't know. But it's interesting because I built a house on the farm at Kimbolton in 2004, and that was about 550,000 or something, same size.
And how long to build? 8 months, 9 months, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. 8 or 9 months. Yeah. Anyway, we all ended up down there. Roger and I and Graham started at Wairunga School, a school with about 30 kids. It'd be 9 or 10 miles away, I suppose, which we got picked up. Well, we had to walk. I think the bus went right past the gate when we were at the cottage. And then when we built the other house, we had to walk about 1.5 miles down the road every morning to catch the bus. And we were there. Well, we were there until we went off to high school, and because there was no bus service to Waimate in those days, we ended up going to boarding at Timaru Boys High in Timaru. So I started there in 1966 and left after 4 years in 1969 rather.
Just a few years difference.
Yeah.
And where did the girls go?
They went to Timaru Girls.
Timaru Girls, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And so you would have come home holidays.
I think we were home for holidays plus one weekend in the middle. Full boarding, and I think we were home one weekend. Like we had a midterm break.
Yeah.
3 terms, and I think that was the only. I'm pretty sure that's the only time we came home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. I didn't really enjoy it that much, but I was in a C stream class sort of stuff, and but you just got on and did what you had to do and survived, and anyway. Yeah.
Cool.
Then we had a creek not down below the house, not far away, that we used to go down and play in a bit and tickle trout and catch cockabullies and all that sort of stuff. And we helped as we got older. We helped Dad on the farm. He was often there on his own. He did employ a boy now and again to help him out, but he said he always said he never ever worked as hard as he did. And when he was employing people to help him, he worked harder than he did when he was on his own.
Yep.
Because you had to make sure that everything. Well, he was a perfectionist, so you had to make sure everything was done properly and stuff.
Were there wallabies around there at that time?
Yeah, there were a few. Not many. You could go up into the hill country and see the odd one, but not like they are now.
Not like nowadays.
No.
Yeah.
The tussock block, was 400 odd acres of tussock. That used to run all the hoggets, and I think he had breeding cows as well, and that used to run the breeding cows in the winter time up there. It was snow tussock higher than me, 6 foot high sort of stuff.
Oh, right.
How old would it have been?
Oh,
just since forever.
Forever. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the fire and the tussock and the snow later on.
Yeah.
So how long was he there for?
So when I left school, Roger was 2 years older than me pretty much, so he left school and came home and worked for Dad for 2 years, and then when I was ready to leave school, Roger went off and worked around. I think where was he? He worked in Central Otago, and then he worked around the place, and then he got a job in the King Country. So he went away after I left school, and I was with Dad for 2 years. Worked at home, learned a bit from him, had heaps of arguments with him. Him and I never really got on. I was too pig-headed, a bit like him, I think. And anyway, so after 2 years, younger brother Graham came home, and I went and worked at Mayfield for a few months, and then into the Mackenzie country, where I worked at Braemar Station for about a year, 18 months, which was a fantastic experience. I loved it up there.
What was the highlight for
just the high country, just being in that environment, and loved working with merinos. Well, we had half-breeds, merino, mainly half-breeds or merinos. I loved getting out and doing we had 3,000 merino wethers, which ran on about 25 or 30,000 acres in the summer and 25 or 30,000 acres in the winter. And you went out, the autumn and spring musters were just, I loved it. It was just out in that real high country up to sort of 8,000 feet above sea level.
So that's on the shores of Lake Pukaki?
Yes, on the southern shore of Pukaki.
Yep.
But you looked straight into Mount Cook every day you got up, and Mount Cook was right there.
We might be racing around there in God's Zone in March next year. So
you never know. Yeah.
How many people would take? Was that whole team muster?
Oh yeah, there was about 4. So I worked for David Studham, who owned Te Waimate at that stage, old Dave, and Duncan Mackenzie, who the Mackenzie family had a farm at Wairunga as well, and they had, I think I think the Studhams had bought it. I'm not sure when, but the Mackenzies went in as part owners a few years later, and the Mackenzie family own it now. And one of Duncan's sons is on it, and he wasn't born. His older sister was born when I was there, and he wasn't. Hamish, I think his name is. He wasn't born when I left. So in there was 72, I think. So I worked there for that, and I just loved it. But when I left school, I wanted to join the army, and Dad wouldn't let me. He said it was no place for a young fella after him being through the war. He said the war was 90% boredom and 10% terror, and he didn't want me to anyway. So I had the opportunity. The government had the compulsory military training ballot system going, so that as you got to 20 or 21, your name went into a hat, and you would draw, and the name was drawn out of the hat, and if it was drawn out, you went into your army service. Well, if I hadn't have been drawn out, I was going to volunteer anyway. So Labor government got in 72 and scrapped it. So the first full intake was winter of 1973, and I volunteered to join the Territorial Force, and I did my winter intake in Burnham, and that's when I left Braemar. Went to do my winter intake in Burnham, which was 12 weeks, and in the middle of winter, bloody cold, freezing frigging place, and there was a range at, I think it was West Melton, the rifle range there. That was the army range, which we used to go up there, and then also at Oxford here there was a place called Little Malaya, which is out the back here somewhere, between here and Lees Valley, isn't it? Sort of area.
Yeah,
or
up
between
the Waimak to just View Hill Way over in the base of Mount Oxford. Yeah.
And we used to go up there and do a few exercises as well. Well, going back a step, I think, must have been, when I was at Braemar, Graham was at home, and there was a phone call one day to say that I needed to go home very quickly. My brother had been killed in a tractor accident. He was 18. He'd been mowing Lucerne hay. It was 5th of November. He'd been mowing Lucerne hay and was coming home with the tractor around the road, and there was a bridge that was too wide for the tractor, and he went through the ford, and one of the wheels on the tractor hit an abutment, and it threw him off the tractor. No cabs in those days. Threw him off the tractor and basically killed him. So
and he was the closest brother in age to you?
Yes, yeah, he was born in the April 40 months after me. 40 months after. So anyway, Roger was in the King Country at that stage, so he came home and Graham was buried in Waimati. Huge devastation for the family. Dad actually never got over his death. Graham and Dad were very close. Graham was closer to Dad than either Roger or I. And so Roger came home from the North Island and stayed at home. I went back to Braemar. Yeah, that must have been that's it. It was 72 he died, November 72, and it was August 73 that I went into the army, I think, if I remember, something like that. Anyway, so Dad didn't really want to farm at Wairanga anymore. He gave Roger and I the opportunity of taking over the farm, and him and Mum would move off, and he'd always had a hankering to go to the North Island farm, and so him and Mum, must have been the winter of 73, him and Mum left for a three-week trip to the North Island looking at farms. He'd been up before. He'd looked all around Gisborne, all around the Wairarapa, wanted a big block for him and Roger and myself. Put an offer on a place at Hunterville, and it was accepted, and then he had to raise the funds for it, and basically somebody else came in and there was a cash out clause, so missed out on that block, but he was very pleased in the end that he did miss out on it, because it was covered in gorse,
Ugh.
bit like this place.
Yeah.
And he always said the only way to get rid of gorse is to sell it.
Yeah.
So he went back up. It might have been at the same time that he looked at he was going through fielding, and one of the managers of National Mortgage, NMA, National Mortgage Agency, stock agency firm at Fielding, Dad had called in to see him because he used to be the manager in Waimate, and he said to Dad, I think Jock Ferguson was his name, I think he said to Dad, I've got this place that's just come on the market this morning at Kimbolton, do you want to go and have a look? And Dad said yes. So they took him up there. He drove down there was a Dick Road was the road that the farm was on. He drove down. They drove down Dick Road, and Dick Road split the farm in half. It was the only farm on the road apart from the bit at the top that was the neighbours on the main road. And he drove in, and as soon as he drove down the road, he said, "I've got to have this place." It was pretty well developed, with good fencing. And things on it, but he said it just felt right.
Yeah, right.
And that was 530 hectares, 1260 acres, and so he bought that, and then he came home. Well, he basically put an offer on it, which was accepted, and then came home and came back to Warrunga and had to sell. The name of the farm at Warrunga was called Parkdale, as was the one at Warrunga. He put those. He named those. Mutnell, I mean. He named the two farms, the same name. Parkdale. His family farm at Pendarvis was Park End,
Right.
and he named the two farms. And they still the one at Mutnell Beach is still named Parkdale. I drove past there the other day when I came down.
All right.
And I think the one at Warrunga is still the same name as well.
All right.
So so that's how we ended up in the Manor 2.
So 1973.
Yep.
Big snowfall when
Yeah.
when you guys were running the farm in Wairanga.
Yeah. Roger and I were on the farm. Mum and Dad were up north. Roger and I were on the farm. We had a snowfall that I think it snowed for about 3 days, or 2 days and 3 nights. And when it finally stopped, the snow was up to the top wire on the fences. We had ewes that had been shorn about 6 weeks prior, because we always used to winter shear. Luckily, we could sort of see it coming, and we had blocks of trees that we could put them in, so we put them in blocks of trees and for shelter. They were fine. We had to feed out to them every day, with taking hay out with. We had a BT86 crawler tractor with a trailer on it. We were carting 40 or 50 bales of hay out each day to them. We had another mob of ewes that were 5-year-olds, and they were due to be shorn the week it snowed.
Oh.
They had 14 months worth of wool on them. They were in a paddock that had a bit of shelter in it, but the snow actually drove them over a bit of a bank into an area, and it was the snow sort of congregated in that area. I think there was 400 odd ewes in that mob, and I think we lost 300 of them just with the weight of wool in the snow. We ended up plucking most of them because wool was worth something in those days.
Yeah.
What a prick of a job that was.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, the rest of them, we never lost one in the ewes that had been 6 weeks off shears.
Yeah.
It was quite amazing. We were at the end of the power line when they built the new house. They had to take the power up there, and the neighbour's place was probably 500-600 metres away, 700 metres. They'd put a power line in with all concrete power poles, and the weight of the snow on the power lines actually ripped the anchors out of the ground and the big pole with the transformer on it at the house. And there was a concertina effect of about 6 poles. Bing, 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 bing. They all broke.
Concrete ones.
Concrete ones. And the only thing that stopped that was outside the neighbour's place was a wooden pole. So the wooden pole had the flex in it to move and then stand back up again. And yet these power boards insist on concrete poles. Ridiculous.
There's 2 really interesting things there. If you don't take everything into context, with the sheep, and you think, okay, a snow's coming, it's better to have lots of wool on them. But we know better. But you can see how people go, oh, they need that wool. Don't do a prelim shear.
Yeah.
But that's what saved them, because we don't tend to think further and go,
Yeah.
well, how heavy is snow when it collects in
Yeah.
wool? It's just they're
Yeah.
dead, they're
Yeah.
gone, aren't
Yeah.
they? And then the second one is the wood and the concrete
Yeah.
poles.
Yeah. So the snow laid for about 3 weeks because it froze on top of it, and
Yeah.
once it freezes, it takes a long time to. At least like here, you get it all west and it disappears, but it just stayed southerly the whole time for that. We had cows on the tussock block, which I talked about before with the big tall snow tussock and stuff, and we couldn't get. There was snow. There was drifts 15 to 20 foot deep up there. We tried to get up there and try to walk up there to get them out, and we just couldn't get them. They dropped. There was a helicopter came in. There was a big community effort. The helicopter came in and did drop some hay to them up, some of them up there, but they couldn't get water. And the thing that killed them was dehydration
Yeah.
because they couldn't get out of the snowdrifts to get to the creeks to get water.
So how many cows did you find?
Oh, I can't remember now, but it was
You'd block it out.
might have been
almost,
I think we might have had 120 odd cows or something rather than might have been 30 or 40 of them die or something.
Yeah.
Can't remember now.
See, that's sort of 15-ish years before the 92 snow in Canterbury. That was a similar.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
That was in Canterbury anyway,
Yeah.
then I think so. That was very devastating out on the flats. But would that be the last big snow in Canterbury that was that devastating? Would be 92?
I
Don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think.
I think somebody did say there was a later, about early 2000s was one, but I
Okay.
can't. I'm not
Because
sure.
there's young, people our age that snow raked here at the Grange,
Okay.
for Ant when before we took it over. So, and that would have been early 2000s, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Glenn talked
So we're
about
still
that.
within 30 years of a massive
So
snow.
you could say every 15 odd years there's a devastating snow. But
Yeah.
But we haven't had. I'm just thinking about the changing of
Yeah.
the weather. Before that, just before the 73 snow, how common was a big snow? And I know there's lots of factors. It's not even just how big the snow is, but like you say, how long it
Yeah.
lasts.
I'm not sure.
Afterwards.
I don't think we had a. That was the first big snow. We always had snow through the winter, but that was the first big snow that we had there. Since 1960,
Yeah.
when we were there. So, and yeah. So, but Dad was actually quite a forward-thinking farmer because he. I said to Alistair the other day, the cows that we had were Frisian Herefords back then,
Yeah.
and we. And I can't remember if he had cows before them. I don't think he did. I think he was just finishing some cattle. But to get to breed up the Frisian Herefords, he got in contact with a dairy farm near Waimate, and they bred Frisian Hereford cross calves like they do quite often now. And Dad bought all the Hereford, Frisian Hereford heifer calves, and then we took them home and reared them on buckets. Or Mum did. Mum and the girls, because Roger and I would have been at boarding school probably.
Yeah.
Well, just about. So that was where the Frisian Hereford cows and hardly any other people had Frisian Herefords. They had become very popular over the last. Well, they've probably gone off a little bit now, but there was a lot of Frisian Hereford cross breeding cows out on hill country in the 80s and 90s. But anyway, and then breeds of sheep. I think he started off. He had to buy ewes in from all over the place to get a decent flock. Well, to get the numbers, and I think they were mainly Romneys, and then he changed to Corriedales. And after
That's quite a big change,
yeah.
isn't it?
because he had did he have Corriedales at Mountnell?
I think he probably did, because his father always ran Corriedales on the plains at Pendarvis. Yeah, and so and I think they did change. Changed to Corriedales, I think.
And wool would be worth it then too.
Oh yeah.
So
Corridor wool's.
Well, even
Wool
Romney
was-
wool was worth.
Yeah,
decent
true,
money.
true.
we always hear about this magical time called where wool was a pound for a pound.
Yeah.
So when was that?
1951, the Korean War.
Oh yeah.
There was a huge shortage of wool because wool was used to making soldiers' uniforms. from the States.
Yep.
And there was one, Dad always said there was one sale that wool was selling for £1 a pound. So in other words, $2 a pound or whatever is that in kilos.
We'll try and work out some rates and put today's dollar per kilo now in here now. So.
But he said it was only one sale, so he missed out, and it went back. So some guys actually paid their farms off
one sale of wool.
with one sale of wool, but he missed out on that sale because he wasn't sharing at that time. So anyway, but yeah, and it'd be interesting to see, as you say, do some calculations and go back and see what
today's value.
Yeah.
Because you hear the stories of people building, paying off their farm or building wool sheds, just with wool check alone.
Yeah.
And for us, Genna and I, in our current farming situation, it kind of boggles our mind that you could have that much value out of wool. But
Well, wool had long been 80% of our income.
Yeah.
Lambs were between the north and south. We were selling lamb. I don't know. I can't remember. Dad, I've got some clippings somewhere of Dad always used to, in Wairunga, sold all his old users 5-year-olds at the local sales at either Wire Forks or Studham, and he always topped the sale with the ewes that he was producing.
Was he quite particular with the age?
Yeah.
Just go right there. This age.
Yep.
They're out.
Yeah.
And
Never
so
took
he's
anything older than everything got sold at 5 years after the fourth lambing, I suppose.
Yeah, right. And so that quality just stayed because
it's
continuously.
And so ewes were worth reasonable money, and I presume lambs must have been worth, well, in today's figures were worth nothing, but they were, as I said before, inflation was very low, so income was pretty good. And I think when we went to Kimbolton, it was I can remember getting $12 for lambs for works lambs. Probably they kill out at 13 or 14 kilos, 13 kilos probably. Well, we'll talk about that skinny sheep scam shortly.
Yep. So just while we're touching on lambs, Jenna's dad talked about a scheme called Beta Lamb, which so they sold lambs and essentially, was it cook them whole?
Yeah.
Did you ever?
No.
You never went into that?
No. There was. I think they had to be a minimum.
We didn't either.
They had to be about 6 kilos.
Right.
The lamb was. I think it was 6 kilos. We had to kill out at 6 kilos.
Oh, so Trevor never did any of that. Okay. Oh. he just talked about there was
Yeah, it's very. We're talking lambs.
Yeah,
like
tiny
lamb.
About.
It's like cooking a piglet in the oven.
Yeah.
Oh god. It's just something, just a cultural thing for me, and it was. I think it was Middle East. Maybe.
I think it was. I think it might have been.
Targeted? Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
So 1973, Pop came home. You moved up to Kimbolton.
Yeah, we took over the farm up there in I think it was first of March 1974.
Oh yeah.
It was running 3,000 ewes and 1,000 hoggets. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. So there was basically 3,000 ewes, 1,000 hoggets, and about 600 2-year-old heifers on the farm when we took it over. The previous owners never ran ewe lambs on the farm. They had another block at Woodville, and they used to take them through there as weaned ewe lambs and run them there till two-tooth stage, because they couldn't get them to grow as lambs at Glenmorlock at Kimbolton. So we never had the opportunity of growing them anywhere else. So Dad,
needs must.
Yeah, there was the Romney Breeders Association had the Romney survey, ran out of fielding. There was a guy, Cliff Martin, I think his name was, and Dad was talking to him one day, and he said, Dad was explaining to him what the problem was, that we couldn't get these lambs to grow, and he said, get on to the vet school at Massey. And it turned out that the chief vet at the vet school at Massey was a guy by the name of Breuer. Neil Breuer. And he happened to be Dad's first vet in North Canterbury when he started farming. And well, he had a vet. They had a vet club. I'm not sure whether it was a Waikari or Harden or somewhere, but he was the vet that Dad used to use out at Mutney Beach.
And I went to school with his grandson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and master them.
yeah. Yeah. So we got on to Cliff got us took Dad to talk to Neil, and the Massey University did a lot of research on our farm when we were there over the 20, 30 years that we were there, or more than 30 years. But the first thing that they did was they came out and tested all these lambs and took samples and did all sorts of other tests, and it worked out that we had a cobalt deficiency. So the reason that they weren't growing was because they weren't getting cobalt, which is
So bush sickness, B12.
yeah. Well, that's what that was, and that's why a lot of the central North Island went into pine trees up there around Taupo
In
and all
the
that
early days,
in the
in
early
the-
days in the 30s,
Yeah.
because they couldn't get animals to grow,
Yeah.
and it was bush sickness. So once
Yeah.
the bush had been cut off the properties, the bush was burned, the ash went into the ground, and for the next probably 10 years everything was brilliant, and then all of a sudden all the minerals disappeared. So we started top dressing with cobaltised fertiliser. I think it was a very, very small amount that you needed. I can't remember what it was now, and we did that for probably 15 years, and then it sort of seemed to fix it well. The problem never continued.
Yeah.
Whether the owners now have had to put cobalt on, I don't know.
Well, nowadays you get a lot of the mineral drenches.
That's right,
Every,
yeah.
every animal health product has got cobalt or B12
Yeah,
in it, so
yeah.
you're probably fixing it in
Yeah.
two different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from those days we did an awful lot of we helped out Massey University with they used to bring students out onto the farm a couple of times a year to do studies and all that sort of stuff, and animals and farm plans and all that sort of thing.
And looking back, do you feel like you got a lot out of that?
I probably did. Yeah,
Yeah.
would have done heaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yoni's disease vaccination.
Oh, well, that was the other one. That was
and a lot of work on Yoni's back then.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
I remember
huge,
that when it was-
huge trial that we did there with on Yono's disease. That we had one year we had 1,000 ewe hoggets, and they basically followed them for their life.
Huh.
Production to seeing what and the reason a third of them were left as control.
Yep.
And there was two Yono's vaccines available in those days, and a third of them were given one, and a third of them were given the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then we followed the whole tags and all sorts. No electronic tags in those days. Geez, it'd be easy today.
Yeah.
We followed them through their whole life until 5-year-old ewes, and so every time we shore, we'd weigh every fleece.
Wow.
All the lambs were, the groups were split into their different flocks for lambing, and lambs were tailed or docked and numbers and all that sort of stuff. It was a production trial really, and the only thing they worked at, there was really no difference in any of either of the vaccines, and I'm pretty sure, remembering back, the only drop in production was when a ewe died. So even the control mob was still producing quite well until they got to the stage where we were losing 500 ewes a year out of the whole flock with Yonos.
Far out.
And yeah, so it was the ewes that hadn't been vaccinated. A number of them still died, and that was the only production loss. There was no loss in wool weights and lambing percentage and lamb weights.
If they'd had the vaccine, do you mean?
Even the controls.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because you don't hear about Yonis
No.
anymore.
No, because I think that goes back to I think that you're feeding them a lot better than we did. It's a stress thing.
Yeah. They succumb to pressure.
And we talked about the skinny sheep scheme.
Tell us about that.
19 whatever it was, Rob Muldoon brought in a scheme to get farmers producing more sheep products, and he paid farmers $1 a head on the 1st of July, I think it was, for the number of sheep. It was a subsidy that a number of sheep you had on the 1st of July. You got money out of from the government.
And this is
And so people were running twice as many as what they should be, or a third as many as what they should be, because there was a subsidy from the government. And what it caused was the land production was 80%, 85%.
Just for comparison,
Yeah,
what
yeah, you're doing 100.
would you expect nowadays?
Oh, now we're probably sitting at 135 to 140%,
Which would be
at the
average.
moment.
Yeah.
I think 135 is currently average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wool weights were, well, we never produced any more wool from probably 1,000 extra sheep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And lamb weights, well, because you never had the feed, so you couldn't
Yeah.
feed the lambs to get them
No.
decent weights and stuff. So
So
it was-
what year was that?
must have been late 70s, I think.
Right. Yeah. So I did a bit of research before we sat down for this, and around about that, early 80s, 40% of farm income was from subsidies. So there's from our
In New Zealand.
in New Zealand, yeah. So from our generation, there's this big the talk of removal of subsidies in the 80s. So do you want to talk us through kind of how you got through that and the the struggles, the hardships, I suppose?
It's hard to remember. You probably forget about all those sort of things that were shit,
Oh, it would have been a very
But
stressful
anyway,
time.
we thought our throats were cut, and I can't. So Labor got it. The Labor, it was national government with Rob Muldoon in charge was throwing all sorts of subsidies at farmers, and the country really couldn't afford it. But then, as people say now, well, Rob Muldoon was the biggest socialist out there. He wasn't really a conservative. He was anyway. So Labor got in, and then Roger Douglas he was the finance minister, and he basically, in one budget, stopped all subsidies in farming, stopped all sorts of incentives, and basically a lot of farmers went broke. A lot of farmers walked off their farms, like they had probably 40 years before. We managed to hang on. So by that stage, and that was 1981.
It was you.
Dad, Roger, and myself were farming at Glenmorlock at Kimbolton, and it wasn't really big enough for three of us. Although Dad had shifted off the farm because Judith and I got married in 1978, and we needed another. Oh, well, that's another story. We'll go back again. We needed another house. Judith and I got married. Mum and Dad were still on the farm. Roger and Karen were in the cottage, and so there was the neighbour's farm coming on the market, which was 600 acres, and we could have bought it for $180,000. And we were banking with the rural bank in those days, I think it was. Yes, it must have been. And we went to the rural bank, and the guy at the rural bank said to Dad, "We're here to help the needy, not the greedy." Dad had taken Roger and I into partnership with him on the farm, and Roger and I owned a quarter of the property pretty much each. So in their eyes, in the bank's eyes, we already owned land.
So which farm was that? Which neighbour
It was on
that?
the northern side,
Right.
end of Junction Road. End of Bluff Road, I mean,
yep.
where Sinclair's were.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, so we said, well, we've got to find another house because Judith and I were getting married, and we needed another house. And the guy said, "Oh, well, you can borrow money to buy your parents a retirement block, whatever." So there was enough. Mum and Dad had found a small block at Kiwi, about halfway between the farm and town, 5 acres, and they were quite happy about lending us $120,000 to buy that.
But
they wouldn't lend us $180,000 to buy a 600-acre productive farm.
what if?
Yeah, well, the thing was though, Dad could have borrowed money at 13%. He said, "There's no way I'm borrowing money at 13% to buy that farm."
Yeah, fair.
To see the way that where interest rates have gone, I can't remember what the interest rates were that we were paying, maybe 5% or something. Mum and Dad bought their 5 acres. Roger and I borrowed the money to put them into that, and then Roger and I were on the farm on our own. And brothers often have niggles and things and disagreements, and basically, so we decided that. So that was 1978, 79, and then 1981. The family decided that basically Roger and I needed to be farming our own properties separately, and so the family bought another property in the King Country at Waimiha, which was 1,100 acres, 500 hectares, I suppose. And Roger and Karen shifted up there, and that was a really good move. I mean, we were still farming in partnership, but we were basically the masters of our own destiny, if you like. We were, and then going back another step, we thought, we had to borrow all the money to go into the farm up north. We had, I think it was $100,000 mortgage on the farm at Kimbolton, and we had to borrow money against that farm. And we had a consultant. We got a consultant involved and sort of said to him, well, what's the best way of generating capital to buy livestock? We had 3,000 odd ewes and 200 breeding cows at that stage on Glen Warlock, Angus breeding cows, and some Angus Herefords, or Hereford Friesian, there was a few of them. And he said, the best thing you can do is sell your cows and then put another 1,000 ewes on, and then put the rest of the money into livestock at Waimiha, which is what we did, but it was probably the worst thing we ever did, because you can't really, we couldn't easily run that farm without cattle, with grooming, so we put on another 1,000 ewes. We never produced any more wool, we never produced any more lambs. Just
so skinny stock scheme all over again.
Well, pretty much, yeah. No, it was a stupid decision, but anyway, it got us into stocking the other property without having to borrow too much more money. So going forward a little bit, then 80, whenever it was that Labor got back in and Roger Douglas did the big budget thing that wiped all subsidies off farming. We had borrowed money through an insurance company to buy the farm at Waimiha, and we got up to, interest rates started to rise, and with part of the insurance, the borrowing from the insurance company is that we took out, part of their policy was that if you borrow money from us, you take out an endowment insurance policy, so after 20 years you paid enough into that policy to pay the farm off. But that was another 6%,
right,
equivalent to 6% interest on top of what we were paying. So we effectively were paying 32% interest on the money that we borrowed.
Yeah.
So
that was quite common.
Oh yeah.
Nationwide.
Yeah.
And like you say, a significant amount of people lost their livelihoods.
Yeah.
And that.
Yeah.
Was it obviously it was pretty extreme, but would you say there was a need to take those subsidies away, but maybe not so dramatically?
I think they only did half the job.
Yeah, right.
They got halfway through. They took all the agricultural subsidies off, and then they decided to stop and have a cup of tea. We'll have to stop and have a cup of tea. And there was a lot more that they were supposed to be doing for other businesses as well, and that just never happened.
All right, like what else did
I can't remember, but I know there was stuff that were being, there was stuff going into keeping other businesses going,
right,
away from agriculture,
right,
that they never did any restructuring of.
Yeah, but like from our generation's point of view, you look at that, and then you look at the kind of the competitive advantage New Zealand have across the world, and how efficient our agricultural system is at the moment, and that is purely due to those reducing those subsidies that were taken off, and how efficient farmers had to become to retain,
quite right,
to keep doing what we're doing. So, like you say, go from 80% lambing to what are we now, 135?
Yeah.
And the efficiencies increase is probably a lot more dramatic in New Zealand than overseas. Overseas viewers.
Well, they're still, New Zealand and maybe Australia are the only countries in the world that don't have subsidies on farming, or in some way. I think they're changing in Europe and in the UK, but they still get paid for doing stuff that we don't. And whether it's environmental or what it is, it doesn't really matter. But we don't get anything. People in the wider communities in New Zealand say, oh, well, farmers get this and farmers get that, and you get a drought, so you get this. You don't actually. You get the Rural Support Trust gets some money to go and help people to find the right direction that they should be putting.
Have a drought shout and the barbecue and a beer, but
Yeah.
doesn't help production.
No.
So sheep numbers fell from 70 million in the mid 80s to currently 24 million. That's ewe numbers.
Yes.
So a lot of those changes in the 80s would have caused farmers to diversify, look elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then, am I right, you sort of got this period of diversification was a bit of a, not a joke, but it was a little bit cliche, and it didn't actually
The thing with
really
diversification in those days is that you had to actually afford to be able to diversify.
Yeah.
And you weren't making any money off your farms, and you never had any spare capital lying around anywhere, so how the hell can you diversify?
Yeah.
Some guys went into goats and ostriches, and
Yeah.
few people started farming bloody possums for their fur and all that sort of stuff, but it's all fallen over. I suppose deer farming was coming up through then as well, which is still continuing, and a few goat farms are still there.
Yeah.
But you had to be able to afford to diversify.
Yeah. That's a good
You know,
point, because diversification is still key.
Yeah.
But you have to have capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we basically hunkered down. We sold so we were under the pump with paying those sort of interest rates. So we managed to, Dad, Roger and I sold pretty much everything off the farms that we didn't need. There was some machinery, there was just stuff that we could make a few dollars out of. We each had a whole of life life insurance policy, which we sold them, and the capital from that, they had built up a bit of money, so we managed to reduce our debt by about 100,000 or something or other, and then refinanced through the rural bank, which was very lucky. Rural, and the rural bank also had a discounting scheme, so I think we got another 100,000 dropped off the mortgage through the rural bank. So the government did come to the party and help in some ways.
Some people.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the case for my family.
No.
I must get into the details, but they were definitely turned down.
Your dad got turned down for the discounting proportion of it.
Yeah. It's interesting calling it a discount, isn't it? It's like a discount of something astronomical.
Take a massive amount of money away, but he will help you with the
So you can see.
Maybe they kind of realised the mistake that they'd made and the repercussions of the wider industry, and they were one step to help ease the pain of
That's a very optimistic
the
way
country.
of looking.
Well, what else would it have been?
Because I can't remember how long were Labor government. How long were Labor?
Was
it only 3 years or was it 6 years?
Change.
Was it I can't remember. It's way in the background.
I mean,
I was born.
To sum it all up, though, the 80s were very significant for sheep and beef farmers.
Oh, yeah.
Unless, what I find really interesting is, families that pulled through, is how they did it and what position they were in beforehand, and then the repercussions or the effect of that today when you go through the generations. So I just find that really interesting. It's like, are they working from some capital that's all sitting there and it's just being drained slowly, or have they had to adapt?
Yeah, possibly.
And, you know, or a mix of both. But as you've sort of said, that there's a lot of adaptation going on.
Yeah, I think those who had done it had been like Dad started with virtually nothing and worked his way up through the industry and got to where he was at that stage were pretty resilient. Whereas people that had been, and I hate to say it, but some of the original farming families that had never had to worry about where the next dollar was coming, those are the ones that fell off the bottom end.
And I don't know, I could be wrong here, but it's not necessarily a repeat, but in a different, with different factors. It almost feels like that is happening again now, where that generational succession from, I don't like to put categories, but you definitely have to figure out how to keep things going for different reasons. So change happens when you're backed into a corner.
Absolutely.
And the 80s was one corner.
And if you don't change, then you fall off. You fall off the edge. We did change, and we got through it, and it was pretty tough. Well, it was very tough. It was interesting. The property that Roger and Karen were on in the King Country, we bought it for $500,000. They sold it after. Well, they were there for 11 years, and then the place next door to Glen Warlock came on the market, so they sold that and shifted down there. Sold it after 11 years for $500,000.
Same
never
price.
made any capital gain. So there was 10, 15 years in that period there was no capital gain on land.
Was that common
I
throughout
think
the
so.
whole country?
Yeah, pretty sure
it
it
was
was.
that 80s period.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when we think we're just peddling, what do you call it? Treading water.
Treading water. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we bought the place at Kimbolton, we had Romney ewes on the place, and the previous owners had got the rams from the same place at Kiwi for 20 something years, and these are the best Romneys in New Zealand, and they blah 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 and blah blah blah. So that you go to there, we were buying for 3,000 ewes, we were buying 20 two-tooth rams a year. And they were absolutely magnificently presented. They were beautiful grown animals. Those people aren't in stud breeding anymore, so I'm stuff Premier and Middlewood were the studs that we were buying from. They were a family thing. We would get them home. Within 2 months, they were that wool blind they couldn't see where they were going. So they plucked the wool out from around their eyes and around the face to make them look like they were clear-faced. And so we would put these 20, well, with the other rams that had survived, we would put these rams out with the ewes at tupping time. And at the end of tupping, we had to actually, half of them had died, and the other half we had to take the tractor and trailer out and pick them up and bring them out of the paddocks.
So say that again. Sorry, it was just the amount of wool.
Well, they were wool blind for a start, so but they were so. What do I say? Inbred, whatever it was, they never survived on hill country. They were so pampered.
Yeah. So there's a region of kind of that area of Manawatu, north of Fielding, called Ram Alley. That's where all the stud breeders in that area would pamper their sheep and grow these stud rams out on beautiful, like probably some of the best country in the country.
Yes.
Country in the country.
Yeah.
Land in the country. Yeah. So I mean, it's exactly the same as bull breeders breeding their bulls on flat ground and then us using them to mate on hill country.
Yeah.
They just fall to pieces.
Yeah. So anyway, so we only stayed with that one breed. We only bought rams there once, and then we found another guy, interestingly enough, on better country down near Longburn, below Palmerston North, Brian Rowland, who had Romneys as well, but he grew them on dead flat ground, but he never went near them at lambing time. They were unshepherded. We bought once again. We bought 20 rams from him the first year. From then on, we only ever bought 4 or 5 because they survived. To get rid of them, we had to cut their throats for dog tucker. And the lambing percent went up. The wool weights went up.
Yeah.
The easy care. When Roger and I first started, the first couple of 2 or 3 lambings that we were there, we were on horseback. We would shepherd half the farm each, and there was 1,500 ewes on steepish hill country. We were out on horseback all day, going around these ewes, having quite a few tied up to fences because you'd have to lamb them. You tie them to a fence and make sure that the lamb was okay, and the next day you'd go back and let them go. We were all day shepherding 1,500 ewes each. About 3 years later, we never went round a ewe. Our lambing percentage went up. We'd culled out all the troublemakers pretty much. The lambing percentage went up, and the easy care thing, and I've never been round a ewe since. Well, you guys do now, but
wow.
It's only because Jenna's from the flat. So did you have a competition between you and Roger?
Oh, no.
How many lambs you had to use? You had to lamb each day,
I suppose there was, but
bit of banter there.
Yeah. But it was a shit of a time. We'd come from a flock in Wairunga that were easy care. We didn't go. Dad had bred this flock up down there that never went round at lambing time.
Yeah.
Well, you might go around once a week to pick up a cast ewe or just to check on stuff, and that was all with a little Land Rover. But
See, I thought this was a modern day issue, but it's really not, is it? Like,
it's a management issue.
Yeah.
Well, breeding, you know. Is it long-term thinking or short-term thinking? Because, like you say, in the short term, the breeders might think, well, you're not going to come back and buy another one.
Yeah.
But in the long term, it's more consistent.
Well, how these guys keep going to that one stud to buy rams every year, I'm blown to find out. They didn't know any different, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's weird, just
interesting.
Yeah.
So started on horses. went to three-wheelers.
Yeah, so Roger, horses were used for all the stock management at Glen Warlock. We hadn't really ridden horses down south, although we did have a pony that, as kids, that we rode around. So really, it was a what do you call it?
A learning curve.
A huge learning curve. They had the people that were there used to do everything on horseback, which we took up. I mean, we started riding when we went up there, and pretty much did everything on horseback right through till about 1984, 85 maybe, that we got our first three-wheeler.
That blows my mind now to think that we all rode around on motorbikes that had three wheels.
Yeah. Well, they were the greatest. Well, before that we thought, oh, we'll be really modern and we'll go and buy a two-wheel motorbike. So it was a Honda 90 CT90 step-through thing.
Yeah.
They spent more time broken out down out the back of the barn because you'd forget to turn the bloody fuel tap from the reserve fuel tank on it.
Oh,
you had a tap that you had to turn, and you'd get down and then you'd forget to fill it up before you went out there the next day, and you'd end up 3 miles or 4 miles away from the house, and you had to walk home.
Oh no!
So that's really my only experience with two-wheel bikes was the Honda 90 on the farm. So anyway, yeah. And then we went to three-wheelers and then four-wheelers, and now it's side-by-sides and stuff, which are amazing. But the side-by-sides are just absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you rolled a three-wheeler, never rolled a four-wheeler.
Yeah. Used to do some stupid things. I'd cut out had a car trailer on behind the three-wheeler, and I'd put 10 bales of hay on it and go and feed some animals, and you'd head down the hill, and it was just a bit heavy for the bike, and you couldn't stop. So once especially, I stepped off and just let it go, and luckily it stopped before it went over a cliff at the bottom of the hill. Luckily there was a bit of a flat at the bottom that slowed down. Yeah. Roger got himself tangled up upside down under one at Waimiha at one stage, cutting posts out to a fence line in the track. They got away on him way out the back of the farm, and he was upside down. The bike flipped him upside down, and he said the only way he managed to get out was he had a pair of lace-up gumboots on that morning that he hadn't laced up, the old Ashley gumboots, and he managed to slip them off and slide out from underneath the bike. No phones, no way of contacting anybody.
Speaking of, you've had a few occasions like that.
Yeah, one main one, I suppose. Well, yeah.
Couple of accidents over the years.
I suppose. Well, the biggest one, I suppose, on the farm at Kimbolton was when I got run into with a bulldozer.
Tell us about
1988. So we'd had a big rain. Well, wet winter, I suppose. A lot of slips down on the tracks. I had a neighbour next door who had a bulldozer, and he used to do some bulldozing for me. And he'd come through the boundary fence with the bulldozer, and we were clearing tracks off one of the paddocks up the top. And this was the second day, and I was getting him to put some fence lines in. That's when we planted the trees in Rough.
Oh yeah.
In that gully.
Yep.
So he was doing the fence lines to put the fences up to plant trees, and I was sitting behind him on the three-wheeler, and he was going forward, and I thought, oh, he's just got to go another 20 metres and I'll be able to duck off the track. And the next thing, with the power shift dozer, forward back, he was back on top of me. In those situations you don't look back where you're going, and I don't know, he must have just looked back for some reason. So the track on the dozer ran down. I was sitting side saddle on the bike, the track came down, ran down one of my legs, opened it right up, broke my leg, and didn't damage the bike. So Carl managed to look around and see me there. Geez, and anyway, he sort of got. I was hanging on to the. I said, for God's sake, turn the bike off, because I can feel my. I was going to go, and it was going to take off because I was just shocked. So he turned the key off, and then he managed to get me off the bike onto the side of the track. There was no blood. or anything.
Oh,
And-
that's even worse.
And but there was some guys from we had two lots of big pylons going through the farm, and there was guys from NZED that were doing some work on them that day when he came through the boundary. So he hopped on the three wheeler, and shot back around the track and got these guys, and they came in their 4-wheel drive vehicle and picked me up, like strapped me up, and put me in the vehicle, and they called up to their station at Bunnythorpe, who called the ambulance, because there was no communications in those days yet, no helicopters,
No rescue choppers.
no rescue choppers in those days. And they so they strapped me up and then took me out to the end of. You couldn't get through to Dick Road because of the tracks were closed. So he took me out to the end of Bluff Road, and by the time we got out there, which would have been an hour and a half after it happened, I suppose, the ambulance was pretty much there.
Yeah.
And they put me in the ambulance and took me to Palmy Hospital. I was in an excruciating pain because it had opened up the whole shin, and the nerve endings were in the air, just like Georgia, with her skin problems and stuff.
So raw.
Yeah, and they couldn't give me any morphine because they weren't qualified to give morphine, but they sent a paramedic out to meet us halfway, and he dosed me up with morphine, but it didn't make any difference.
Didn't even have the green whistle then.
No.
Green whistle's way
Oh,
better
the
than morphine.
the suckies, the
Yeah.
laughing gas. Oh yeah, that's all they had.
Oh yeah,
But it-
Oh, I think the one you're talking about is slightly better than what would have been.
Oh,
Would have got.
yeah.
I think.
Probably technology's changed.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, so they got me to hospital, and after they had to set my leg, which they did with external fittings sticking out like a TV aerial, and then they had to do a skin graft on my shin, which they took skin off my thigh on my left leg, and covered. And as soon as they did the skin graft, the pain went away
Yeah.
because it had closed over the nerve endings.
Yeah.
So then I had to stay in hospital for about 3 weeks until the skin graft healed, or took. So I wasn't allowed out of bed for 3 weeks. So I had my leg up on a frame in the bed.
Yeah.
I was lying on my back, well, basically, in bed for 3 weeks.
You'd be bored out of your mind. There was no YouTube back then.
Well, there was Andrew. Your uncle had a little TV that he had bought back from overseas somewhere, but it was that big, about that big.
Still, that would have
So
been a game
he bought that in.
Yeah.
And then read books and stuff, I
Yeah.
suppose, and things.
So after that, would you have changed anything about the way, in terms of health and safety and all that? Did it change the way you do things or not?
Oh, I was very much aware that you don't try to sit behind a
Well, I'm
bulldozer
just
and pick
wondering
up.
because there's another example. There was one where you dragged yourself from the farm.
Oh well,
So
Is that-
it's continuation.
that's a continuation
Oh
of this
my
one.
goodness. Okay, so
So they so I
so
had
you didn't learn.
no different situation. This was that happened in the early March, and then I went and once the skin graft healed before I left hospital, they took the pins out and external pins and put in plaster. And for about 8 weeks, I was in plaster with it. And I went back, and they, as you do, and they said, "Oh, it's healed quite well, but it hasn't quite healed up quite enough, quite all of it yet. But no, we'll take the plaster off, but just be careful, don't jump off the back of a truck." Well, I didn't jump off the back of a truck, but I was back on the horse mustering for docking, and I was up this real narrow, steep gully, and it was quite slippery, and the horse fell and threw me off. And I hit the ground, and my leg hit the ground, and it just opened it up, just like a hinge. So then.
So it's not really. It's not another.
Well, no, it was a different situation.
It's only preventable if you hadn't got on a horse. But I can see how after how many.
But then we
weeks
did
of
not all our
being-
mustering on horses.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I can see. Yeah.
So bike couldn't have got there. Anyway, I had the 3-wheeler, but this paddock I couldn't muster with a bike.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I managed to. Luckily I had some string in my pocket, and I managed to find a stick lying on the side of and I strapped my leg up, sort of splintered it.
Yeah.
And I dragged myself up this gully and under an electric fence, which wasn't like I'd forgotten that I'd turned it off, and I thought, shit, I'm going to get a shock here, but I didn't.
Oh, you're bracing yourself for a shock.
And then up over the ridge, and I thought, if I can get to the road by about 3:15, I knew Judith was going to go out to the to pick up the boys. Was it you or
Yeah.
from the school bus, Gavin? 90. Oh no, it might have been
When was that?
80, 88, 89.
No, it would have been Gavin. I would have been home.
You told me
Yeah.
that you rode out on your little plastic trike and saw your dad
Saw him crawling down the
Crawling.
dragging himself down
dragging
the road.
himself. But you must have been what, 4?
4.
Yeah.
And you remember, and that he.
Rushed home and told Mum.
But hadn't your mum just left?
No. It was after.
She had no.
So you weren't home by yourself. I was making that up.
I thought, well, if I can get to the road by 3:15, I know that Judith will be coming back in from picking up Gavin from school, from the bus, up the end of the road, 3 miles up the road. I got to the top of the ridge and saw her dust just going around the corner. And so I managed to get onto the road, and we had the fence on the side of the road was right on the edge of the road. So I, with another stick that I found in the fence, I managed to stand up, but I sort of hobbled my way down about 1.5 kilometres, 2 kilometres, till I got back to the house. And that was about 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, or 3 o'clock it was 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. So Judith put me straight in the car and took me to Palmy Hospital again. Now, don't ever go to a hospital to get your legs sorted out at about 4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, because every other bugger's gone home.
Oh no!
Oh right.
So there was a junior doctor on, so that, like, all the plaster room had gone, all the specialists had gone home, and so the ED, the junior doctor had strapped my leg up from the heel, from the foot right up to my hip, and he said, "Oh, you can go home, come back on Monday."
That would be an uproar now, like absolute uproar.
So we came home, managed to get home, and went back on the Monday, and the people that saw the plaster, and the lady that ran the ED plaster room, she was bloody horrified at this. Anyway,
well, it's a step up from a baleen fine and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, it was back into plaster. I might have spent a night in hospital. I don't think I did, but it was back in plaster, because because it was the shin. There's no blood vessels on your shin. And
true.
And that's where it had broken again, was on that side where there was no blood. Well, it scraped all the blood vessels off anyway when I broke it. Right. And so anyway, I was in plaster again for another 6 or 8 weeks. So that was the middle of docking, but luckily the neighbours were very, very good. Carl, the guy with the bulldozer, and
maybe he felt a little bad.
Well, and Brian Kirk next door, and Dad and a few others, because Roger and Karen were still in the King Country. They got to a tailing crew, a docking crew together, and did all the docking for me.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Although we worked, and 3 of us neighbours worked in together for tailing anyway, so that was quite good. So. Yeah. Anyway, so I had it in plaster again for another 8 weeks or 9 weeks, or whatever. That was October to December, and then they, through the summer, they took that plaster, the normal plaster, off and put it into a plastic cast, so I could moulded a plastic cast on your leg, and then they could take it off for a shower and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't too bad. But it was about 13 or 14 months from the time I did the original one till I
got the okay.
Again.
It's quite a long time to be kind of running a farm full time and trying to recover and heal. And, yeah.
But if you hadn't got back on the horse, so to speak.
Yeah.
The one time.
Yeah.
You should not get back on the horse.
Yeah. Oh. So anyway, that was the highlight, the excitement of my life, I suppose.
Oh.
It's the main one. Health and
safety. Right, I've got some points down here.
Is that still going?
No, this one.
That one's
this
going.
One up here. Technology changes over the time. So obviously, Kiwi Farmer, sponsored by Te Pere. John, you've got a pretty cool story about the origins of Te Pere.
Well, can I go back another step before that? Electric fencing.
Oh, yep.
When we went to Kimbolton, the farm was very, very, very well farmed with concrete posts, 8 number 8 wires, and battens, 4 concrete posts about 12 feet, 4 metres apart, 5 battens between, but 100-acre blocks, 40-hectare blocks, far too big. So we went in and started fencing, electric fencing. Now, the cheapest way to do an electric fence in those days was called a grass fence. And what a grass fence was 2 wires about 18 inches, 2 feet apart, and about 10 or 12 inches above the ground that ran parallel with all over the place. So that, and also it was 2 wires, and there was, you could buy insulators which were about 4 inches long with the thing. Anyway, we and battens into the ground. So we actually split all the battens out of macrocarpa or blue gum on the farm, and we fenced, I don't know how many miles, how many kilometres of fence with that stuff, and it lasted. And then it grew, and then it grew because there was 2 wires. The animals couldn't eat underneath them, so it grew a grass fence, a barrier up the middle.
But they just eat the grass.
No,
I've never heard of this.
They can't eat the grass in the middle because there's a wire there and a wire there.
Yeah.
And
permanent wire.
Permanent. These are permanent fences.
Yeah.
And so there were only two wires that far above the ground, and then a grass barrier grew up through the middle, and that was what stopped them going across the fence.
Let's see if I can find a picture.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah. As a kid, shit scared trying to jump over these. You've got two wires this far apart.
Yeah.
Like, if I stand in the middle, am I going to get a shock? Or,
Yeah. No, I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
Is this a North Island thing?
It was developed by I can't remember who developed it now. It was
Fascinating.
yeah, it was someone in the Waikato or something. I can't remember, but that was the easier. But then after a number of years, the development of better electric fence units and fiberglass came along, fiberglass warrant standards.
Oh, I hated those.
Yeah, well, we
did
did heaps and heaps of 4-wire vertical fences with the other ones were those very thin wires with the springs on them. It was developed by a guy at Bulls. There was 16 gauge wire, very thin stuff and high tensile.
kind of like the stuff your place was fenced
Oh
out
yeah,
of,
it was.
that the pivots grabbed and dragged throughout the whole.
Same sort of stuff.
Of the whole farm.
Because to strain the wires up, you had a spring.
Yeah.
It wasn't a springy spring, but it was a steel piece, a steel bit like that, but it was spring steel.
Yeah.
So you hooked the wire on one end, and then this clipped into a post on this end, or an insulator, and you hooked the wire on that end, and then you could strain it up by winding the wire around this end.
Oh, okay.
And then that's how you got your strength.
Yeah.
But
you could undo them and open up the fence too. I remember doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are just a couple of developments with electric fences. So,
but then you spent a lot of time later on, rotational grazing. We'll talk a wee bit about that. But getting the whole farm split up into 4 hectare paddocks essentially. Yeah. So a lot of
the grass fences helped at the start, and then after a few years, things they started to break down and things. So we started to convert them to 4-wire vertical electrics. Yeah, but with the grass fence, we never pushed a fence line or anything anywhere.
No, so it's just natural.
Just
contours.
natural contour up and down through gullies and ups and downs and bits and pieces.
And
so what was the brand of your first electric fence unit? Were they Gallagher's back then, or
no? Well, Gallagher's were on the market, but the grass fence guys were the first unit we had. I'm pretty sure was a grass fence unit. And I can't remember who. No, I just can't remember who made them now.
So other technologies that you kind of adopted as they came onto the market?
Well, electric fencing would have been the biggest one. Cattle yard systems. We had a set of we built a new set of cattle yards on the farm when we went there to Kimbolton, and we had for years we just had a Tiki head bale, just one of those early head bale type things, and then we went. The first cattle crush we got was a King equipment one. It was made at Ashurst. We thought that was the bee's knees because it was so easy to use and things. And now, especially with handling bulls that we were at that stage, just because all we had was the old wooden gates and the head bow, smashed gates and all sorts.
We didn't. I grew up managing sheep. Yeah. So I didn't have to. That's partly why I don't like handling cattle now. You just not used to it.
Yeah. Training Georgia up young.
Yeah, she loves it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose then the technology. I suppose the sheep handling technology we went into was, and I can't remember the year, but we bought one of the early race wool sheep handling
So before that, you had an orange with a clock face scale.
That's right. Yeah, we had just a weigh crate with clock face on it for weighing lambs, which we'd do at weaning time every year. Pretty hit and miss because the clock face would be going, the thing would be going like that.
More guesstimating than anything.
Well, at least you knew you were
within range.
Was it very common to weigh it? Because I don't.
Yeah, well, it started it, I suppose. Yeah.
I don't think we did.
A few of us would. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you going to say? Jumping back to the Te Peri.
Oh, the Te Peri. So I'll lead into this. So the race walk crush that we had, they were made by a guy, Fagan. I can't remember his first name in Tikwiti. The Fagan family are a big family up there. All shearers and that sort of thing. So whatever he was making these sheep handlers and cattle crushers as well. And the first one we had was one of his early race walls, similar to what you had out here, but it was completely manual. But it was you could weigh with it. There was no drafting on it, but you could weigh with it and you could dag sheep in it. Yeah. Same catching system and everything that's there now.
So and that was air operated. Yeah. I remember you making a one-way drafter out the front, just out of wood with a handle. Yeah. And then obviously when the three-way drafters came in and he developed them.
I slowly, as they were developing the stuff, I was upgrading.
Yeah, right.
And we ended up with three-way drafting in a permanent race situation where we'd made a race that came out of the main drafting race and it went around in a half circle and we had 3 pens out here that you could draft into.
Do you think the main catalyst for looking for those improvements was because you were surrounded by people who were doing it?
No.
That was just
and I thought, we used to drag all the ewes over the board for dagging, 3,000, 4,000 ewes.
And you thought, nah.
No, and it was basically I was running 6,000 stock units on my own.
So it comes out of a necessity of...
Well, even as a 40-year-old, my body was wearing out, because you...
It sounds really familiar. And, I mean, the reason I asked, it's just interesting to see why people do... I'm always interested in why people do the things that they do and how actually it just goes back so far. Yeah. I mean, my family history, there are so many similar elements. Yeah. Whole different story, different whatever, but it's not really. Yeah. It's not like we just picked up this stuff out of nowhere. Whether it's letting university students on farm or talking to vets who are doing the first thing, or looking at minerals, or looking at, but just that whole idea of the technology. Yeah. How do we do it better? Yeah. It's such an ingrained thing. Yeah.
When we were over in Aussie, you told the story about the origins of Te Peri, where the name came from.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So do you want to tell us that one?
Yeah, okay. So Te Peri was a farm in the Beaconsfield Valley, north of Fielding, and Peter French, and before him, his father ran that farm, and his father was an inventor of all sorts of devices for helping sheep farmers really handling stuff, equipment. The first thing, one that most farmers in New Zealand now use is the Te Peri docking line, tailing line, and that was one of their inventions. They did a lot of other stuff, but it got to the stage where so Te Peri, the name is the name of a cliff on the farm that looks down into the Kiwi stream, right beside the Kiwi stream, which ran through there and then right up and past our place. So he was only probably 10 k's away from where we live, but probably 40 k's by road. Yep. Yeah. So that was where Te Peri itself started, and it must have been the early Maori name of that cliff, I presume, in the area. And then whenever it was that the Blanford family from Oamaru, Pete was at the stage where he couldn't really develop any more, I think, and so he sold that to the... What were they doing before they bought that? I can't remember. I'm not sure whether they were into other stuff or not.
No, I don't know. I'd have to ask them. Yeah. Maybe that's another topic.
Yeah. So Pete sold the brand and his patents, I suppose, to Te Peri that are now in Oamaru, and they've developed it hugely since.
Right, other technology like computers. We were talking. When did you get your first computer? Would have been
late 80s, early 90s, probably early 90s, I suppose, was it? Because we talked about that you said Brian Hunter was out. It came out to help me set it up. He was another farmer that was into computers for years before anybody else.
And that was just for doing the farm books, wasn't it? It was, what was the first accounting software?
That was the Lincoln University one. Lincoln had developed, along with CRS, Lincoln had developed a program, and beside them, completely separate.
It was cash manager,
rural
services,
and Masterton. And Lincoln and we went with the Lincoln University one, but then and we found that really good, but when everything went, it was all DOS based, and when everything went Windows based, Lincoln never had the capital. The thing with Lincoln never had it was the Kellogg program, I think. Anyway, something to do. Anyway, Lincoln never had the capital to convert everything to Windows based, but CRS did. Cash Manager did. So Concepts Cash Manager, which was developed by a farmer in the Wairarapa.
So then the Lincoln one kind of faded away, and CRS is Farm Focus, which is what we use now. They just continue to thrive. Sheep breed changes over the time. So started with Romneys when you went there.
Yeah, we were with these bullfed and bloody and unproductive Romneys that we went there. We changed breeds, as I said before, breeders, and then at one stage we put English Leicester through our flock, just to give it a bit more bone, and they were sort of a bit more an upstanding breed, and we did that for probably 5 years, I suppose, and it increased wool weights. Didn't help lambing percentage very much, but it just gave you a more robust sheep. And then, whenever it was that the Finn sheep came into New Zealand, when the first release of Finn genetics into the New Zealand sheep industry, after they'd done a lot of, they had them all on quarantine farms for a number of years and did breeding programs and stuff, we went and bought about 25 Finn ram hoggets. Were they pure or were they halves? It must have been halves, I think, from the Ramsden family at Coomeraw near Woodville. They were breeding them up. So we put them across. All of our ewes went to Finn cross ram hoggets, Finn Romneys.
Yeah.
And the reason that we did that was to increase lambing percentage.
And what kind of effect did that have? So trying to remember some numbers.
Oh, that's mad.
Well, the fertility itself, we were probably, in the early days of scanning, we were probably scanning with Romneys 130, 140%. We went to 200% scanning with the Finn cross.
Did it increase triplets?
Yes. Yeah. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So you increased scanning percentage. What about survivability?
Well, survivability went up because of the numbers that we had, but we were still not. We were struggling to tail or sell dock 135% of lambs. Even with those, there were huge losses, and once again we were doing work with vets trying to work out what was going on.
So increase in scanning percentage, increase in wastage, which is the risk factor, isn't it?
Yeah.
So from Finns you went to, from the Finn proportion, putting that in.
Well then I started buying rams from, because they went, Ramsden's shifted, I think. Well, they're down at Queenstown now, but I think they sold their flock. But anyway, there was another breeder, Roger Marshall from Martin, who was breeding a ram or a breed of sheep called Kelsos, and they were Romney, Finn.
A little bit of Texel?
Did they in those days or not? I can't remember. I don't think they did, but there was Finn, and then there was East Frisian. They might have had a bit of East Frisian as well, but there was Ron and maybe Coopworth. So they became a stabilised breed. Yeah. And we bought those rams off one of his breeders, which was Darcy Hamilton at Tineroto.
which is kind of inland from Wairoa.
between
East-
Wairoa and
East
Gisborne
Coast.
and land. Yeah, there at Edson Road. We bought them for a number of years, and it got to the stage where it was probably an all-day drive to get up there and get and half a day to get back. And I bought them there for 2 or 3 years, and I just said to Darcy in the end, I said, you know the type of ram I want, just send them to me without even going to see them.
Relationship with the breeders
Absolutely
is
agree.
quite
Yeah,
that
yeah.
trust.
yeah.
Um,
And then I think the last year that I was up there, I sort of felt that they'd gone a little bit, I don't know, fine or something or other in the breed. So then I didn't really want to go back to Romney's, but I started breeding with Coopworth.
So who was that?
That was
Can't think of his name.
Carthews.
So you
from
had
Alfredton Way.
a Kelso ewe to a Coopworth ram.
Yeah.
And Coopworth, are they?
They're a
They're
Romney.
more milking.
Well, they're a Romney.
Like they milk.
They're a Romney Border Leicester cross,
All right.
stabilised.
Yep.
So, but they once again they just gave it. Well, you got the hybrid vigour. You've got.
Yep.
And that was the thing with crossbreeding out of anything is you get that hybrid vigour.
So did you do any A and B flock maternals, terminals, breeding? You know, blackface rams across.
I think in the early days when we were trying to get rid of the bloody troublemakers out of the Romney flock, we always tagged anything that put an extra tag in the ear of anything that caused problems. Lambing had to lamb it, so we'd slow it, and they all went to a blackface. We didn't. I don't know. I think we always did have a bit of a small B flock that went to the blackface, but so that we weren't breeding from that type of ewe.
So what breed were your blackfaces? Where'd you get them from?
They were Dorset Down, I think they were, there was a guy, Chris, on the flats between sort of Rongatira and Bumps North.
Oh yeah.
Not Longburn, or sort of in that area. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Oh God, what's his name? Anyway,
It'll
he was
bug
very involved with feed farmers like I was at the time. Yeah.
Cool. Right. So that's sheep production, sheep side of things done. Cattle started off with some.
Well, we started off with those 600 sort of Angus, mainly Angus sort of heifers that we bought when we bought the farm, and then we pulled out 200 of the top ones of those and bred them up, started breeding them until 90. Well, that was 74, 75 until 81 when we sold the cows to put money into the sheep in Waimea.
Yep.
And then a few years later, I must have gone back into some cows and Frisian Herefords mainly, because then I was using a Simmental bull across them and keeping all the male progeny entire as bulls, which was an exciting time in the yards with them. God, they were mad.
So it's so interesting, isn't it? And we were talking about this yesterday with the temperament of different breeds. And
The cows were as quiet as, because they were Frisian Herefords all bred on the bucket.
Yeah.
And the bulls, when you buy them, were as quiet as, and yet that cross for some reason. We'd also used the odd Celia bull as well, which were very small calves. They were quite, but they were bloody mad as well.
So Simmental cross with what?
The Frisian Hereford cow was a Simmental calf. I don't know whether it's the mixture of the genetics or what it is. I don't know. But sometimes was it not long after I got together with Sharon, and she would be up there, growing up with a Frisian dairy herd in the yards, and she'd be wanting to get out of the way because you're going to get flattened by that bull that's just bloody going to charge you. They were not very nice animals. So after a few years, we did I was using consultants and stuff in those days. Will Wilson was the main one, and we decided to get rid of the cows and replace them with finishing Frisian bulls. Well, I got into the bull thing by leaving the male progeny entire as bulls, and the growth rates on those things were amazing, and even compared to, and then we started buying in weaner Frisian bulls, a couple of hundred of them, and that was about November, December.
So what pushed you to that, Mick? Was it the behavioural, like just handling them all?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
and then simplicity.
Well, there was just
to-
more money to be made out of the Frisian bull, bull beef than there was even out of steers. In those days back then.
Makes sense.
Well, I think it's the growth rates too. You can get rid of them before the second winter.
Yeah,
You could just kick them along pretty quick using a lot of like moasses. So
yeah,
like our winter
annual
stuff.
grasses. Yeah,
Yeah.
3 kilos a day.
Yeah.
Just,
2 or 3 kilos.
Yeah.
And then
But you grazed some lone cows for a while with on a contract.
so Rissington Cattle Company from Hawke's Bay were using a lot of Leishman genetics from the States, and they bred up they had Simmental as well, and I think they might have had Angus, but they were using these ones to breed up a breed called either Rangemaker or Stabiliser, and they were a stabilised breed of a number of English breeds. One of them was solely the English breeds, Angus, Hereford, Red Devon, those sorts of breeds, and the other one, there was one, I can't remember, and then the other one was European breeds, Simmentals, whatever else other breeds came from. And so I think I had one. I ran one of their herds for about 4 years or 5 years, one of their cow herds, which I used. Like, it was a really good deal because they supplied the animal, and then they would buy all the progeny back off me at market rates.
Yeah.
So it was basically like owning your own animal, but you didn't have to pay for the animal.
Yeah.
So that was a really good system. But I had to carve them all on the flats.
Weigh and tag.
I was going to say,
every calf at birth.
Yeah.
And then but it worked out pretty well. It was good. It was a good deal. And there was a few other people that had the same sort of deal with them.
And you only got flattened once.
Yeah, I only got flattened once. Yeah, in the paddock.
How many times are you up to?
Only once.
Yeah.
This cow was the last.
Did it good though.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
this one did too. This cow was the last one to calve, and I went out there with the bike and grabbed the calf to tag it, and she took to me. And luckily my hat fell off in the paddock, and she took to the hat, and I managed to scramble the way back to the bike. I wasn't that badly injured, but I was shaken up. And it was interesting because every time that cow got anywhere near the yard, she would go berserk. And the guys at the Absalom family that owned these cows, they bred for temperament, and all their cows were so quiet. They were because you take it for granted that every cow was going to be quiet. This thing, it was her fourth calf or something rather, never ever put a foot wrong in her life.
Wow.
And she just decided one year that she was going to go nuts. And
sounds like it's my 40th birthday, so maybe I'll take some tips. I've stayed the path too long. I've had enough.
So that worked out pretty well, and I can't remember when they changed. They had a change in policy, and they took all their cows back, and then that may be when I went further into bulls.
Because then did you graze some Red Devons for someone else for a year?
There was that was
the same sort of contract.
Yeah, that was for a family that had a Red Devon stud just out of Palmerston North.
Anyway, and then so it was a shear farming arrangement where you work out the price and the weight of the calves and work out its yield. But so then you more went into the bull beef, the Frisian bull beef thing, and you were.
I was buying 400, 450 free. I started off with Frisian calves, weed calves. We just couldn't get them to grow over the summer. That first summer, they'd go backwards. They were shocking. So in the end, I'd buy lightweight yearlings from wherever. I just say to an agent, I need 300 animals at such and such a weight, and they'd find them somewhere for me around the country. A lot of them came out of the Nelson area. A lot of them for all over, some mainly South Island stuff that would come through.
All right.
Yeah, some local. I'd go to the sale and Fielding and buy some. But and then we ran them for. Well, we'd finished them by the time they were. We'd take them through one winter and then finish them in the spring and summer the next year at sort of 300 plus kilo carcass.
So kind of 24.
Yeah, before. Well, it'll be 20 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before their kind of third winter.
Yeah.
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 Yep. And then all sold to where did they go? FK and Fielding.
No, they went. Well, we had stock agent. He just sent them wherever the best price was. I think we supplied a lot to Ensco. They had works at Martin.
Oh yeah,
Canterbury.
grace meats and
No, we never sent any down there, but like AFCO was in fielding and
Yep.
yeah, just wherever the best price was at the time.
plenty of options there.
Yeah,
Get all done. Right.
Monitor Farm.
So, I did have that around here.
What, are you going to say something else?
No. So, I suppose it's the rise of technology, the change in grazing practices with rotational grazing coming in, and then monitor farms. So,
Well, hang on, go back to the rotational grazing thing.
Yeah, rotational grazing.
Because we didn't talk about that. So, back in the the mid 80s, there was a big push for, instead of set stocking all your stock around the farm, but saying just never even move them. The idea of this rotational grazing came in, and it got quite popular, and we got into that, basically shifting big mobs every sort of 3 days on some of those paddocks, and that's why we cut down a lot of those paddocks into 4 or 5 hectares blocks in the end, because you only needed animals in there a day instead of 4 days, 3 days, or 4 days in a 40 hectare block, and that certainly improved. It improved pasture quality on hills, because all we could do is, they call it hoof and tooth. So you're tramping out the bad species, and the animals are eating the stuff and then putting the dung into the ground, and you were putting them on stuff at 15, 16, 1700 kilos of dry matter, and take them off at 7, 8 or 900, I suppose.
So chewing it right down.
Pretty much, well, depending on time of the year.
Yeah.
But the pasture species changed so quickly out of brown top and rubbish to basically ryegrass and clover. Just volunteered. Yeah.
So that information, where was that coming from? Was it coming out of the universities, or was it coming out of like what we now call beef and lamb, or MAF? Yeah,
MAF. Some of the younger consultants, some of the guys that had come out of the universities and were younger consultants that started working with MAF, Ministry of Ag and Fisheries, farm consultancy teams, sort of saw opportunities to go out on their own, and I think a lot of it was developed just from probably university knowledge.
Yeah.
But they were the old guys that were with MAF still stayed there and plodded along, did the same things they'd always done, I think. But there's young guys.
Would have been Tom Fraser in his
heyday,
way back then.
Yeah. So does the concept of rotational grazing, is that a New Zealand thing?
Pretty much.
And so that's why it's only hitting America.
They talk about regenerative farming over there, and they're into this rotational grazing, and I think it's just been developed. It's been running here since probably the late 70s, early 80s.
So you could argue that it came from New Zealand?
Yeah.
We didn't look overseas and go, hey,
I don't think so.
doing this.
No. New Zealand farming's always been seen as at the forefront of any new developments in farming and animal and livestock farming in the world.
I wouldn't say there's so much now, is it?
Look at the technology still coming out of New Zealand.
I know, but I
don't
know if it's
by the rest of the world. So
known for that though. I don't know.
Ask the viewers if you're still here after an hour and a half. do you still see New Zealand as being the forefront of innovation and technology and?
Well, I think it probably is, because
I think it is.
The number of people that in like the UK that are using New Zealand systems to run their farms, or even other places.
My thinking is those systems have been around for 30 years, so it's not really new, is it? So are we still actually? And we don't develop new plant species and things because we're not allowed to do.
Well, you can do it. You can do it without GE, but it just takes longer.
Yeah.
But it's safer. You could say over the long term. Yeah.
So you reckon new stuff is still coming out of New Zealand?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Technology, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at wearables.
Oh.
Cow collars.
True.
That's the big topic at the moment. So
Yeah.
So monitor farm.
Yeah.
So moving on from rotational grazing to more monitor farm.
So beef and lamb had the monitor farm system running for a long time, right throughout the country, back in the 90s, 2000s, and I'd been involved in the Monitor Farm Committee and the Manawatu for a long time, ever since it sort of started up. Just got shoulder tapped by one of the vets, I think it was, or somebody, Trevor Cook probably. And so I was involved in the committees and running those sort of places on quite a few different places. And then I had the opportunity about 2003, 4.
Yeah, it was when I was at Lincoln.
Yeah, it was 2000. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2004. To my neighbour had the the Monitor Farm system up running on his place, and he sold his farm, got out of farming. So I put my hand up and said, well, I'm quite happy about running. We split it out after that to about 4 Monitor farms around the Manawatu. Hares were one.
Yep. But you had a breeding monitor farm, and a finishing.
Finishing.
So,
that's right.
So you were the breeding one.
Yeah.
The finishing at that time were the Strauns at Kiwi
or Abysses actually.
Abysses
before them. Yeah, at Helcombe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went into the monitor farm situation, and it just didn't change much, but just made you think about things and analyse things more.
I suppose you were kind of at the looking for all the little tweaks that you could do anyway. You were already running consultants. You had Trevor Cook and Will Wilson and John Stanchel and all those guys doing work for you anyway. So it probably wasn't. It was more the learnings. Going forward to other people.
Yeah, and getting information. Even though I was the one where it was based at, there was lots of other information coming in from all sorts of different areas. The other one that I never talked about was the Salui program with Horizons Regional Council, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe.
No, I've got. We'll move on to that now. So, natural disasters, I suppose, shape the landscape and shape people. So, Cyclone Bowler to start off with.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tree planting and stuff after that.
Yeah.
And talk about that.
Yeah, we never got hit with Cyclone Bowler in the Manawatu. It was more Gisborne, Hawke's Bay, or the Gisborne Wairau country that got really, really thrashed with that. And a lot of that country up there after Cyclone Bowler went into pine trees, which now is causing all sorts of problems with the slash, the harvesting and the slash that comes off them, and blocking roads and bridges and wiping out stuff. But
well, I suppose there was a lot of programs came in after Bowler for planting poplars on hill country and that kind of thing. So.
Well, actually, we had a lot of poplars on the farm that had been planted in the 1960s with the catchment board days.
Right.
And they got to the stage, they'd been planted in different places and then just left, nothing done to them. And some of these trees were 1.5 metres across and huge, and you get a huge windstorm and it would blow the tree down or blow the top out of the branches and
the double leader.
Double leaders,
pruning the poles.
Yeah. But anyway, so there was an initiative from the regional council up there, Horizons, called SLUI, Sustainable Land User Initiative, and I can't remember when it came in, but you had the opportunity of doing a whole farm plan, and we did one of those. You were at Lincoln, were you?
Was it before 2004, the floods? Was it after? It was before. Must have been before. Yeah, it might have been late 90s, early 2000s that we went into that. And so it was basically a whole farm plan done to work out what you could retire, where your best money was going to be spent, how you could farm the farm better, and things. So it was a program. Well, was financial stuff was done as well, and Greg Shepherd was who was working at Dannyburg, I think it was at that stage, did the financials, and there was a guy, Lockie Grant from Land Vision, who was originally in New Plymouth, but he's now in Nelson, did the whole farm plan for us. And the Land Vision guys came in and mapped the whole farm. They did soil samples out of every paddock. They did a soil map over the whole farm. It was very, very comprehensive, amazing what they did. And then there was a recommendation about what you do with your farm from the consultant, and I'm not sure whether that was Greg or somebody else that did that. But it worked out basically that we had done 90% of what we needed to do even before this initiative came in with tree planting. We'd retired areas, we'd retired at least 15% of the farm out of production animals into trees, different
gullies, corners.
Some vines, some natives, some eucalypts.
Some all sorts of varieties. So that was a really good program to get into. Now whether they're still operating that, I don't know. But the farm plan things seems to be the
freshwater farm plans.
Freshwater farm
running through New Zealand.
Well, and that was the reason for doing this was, well, how do you stop your streams and stuff being degraded by animals walking through them? You know, we had some really big gorges. Some of them had been retired forever, never ever been farmed.
Yeah.
But it was good. I felt that it was a good initiative to get into. So
it's all about that sustainability and that environmental stewardship.
Yep.
You know,
and to not be scared of being what's the word, regulated. Because I still find a lot of people don't want to do those things because they're scared that they're going to be regulated.
Well, you don't have to be. You can do it yourself. And
exactly.
You get so much out of out of those programs.
Yeah.
Yep. So 2004, flooding then.
Yep. So February the 17th, 2004, there was a huge, major rainstorm that hit the Manawatu, Wanganui, Taihape area.
So southwest and North Island.
North Island, yeah. We had something like 320 odd mils of rain in 24 hours. The country at Kimbolton it's all wind-blown soils from the after the volcanoes and stuff. So it's all very Kimbolton soils were probably some of the best soils in the country for growing anything on. But there was 1 metre, 2 metres of topsoil and then into a sort of a papery clay base. With that sort of a rain event, you can't really stop stuff deciding that it didn't want to stick on a hillside anymore. And we were 3 kilometres down the side road, Dick Road. We had 32 slips on the road, which blocked the road for quite a while. And
come again, 32.
32 slips on the road. And
was this when you were at home?
No. So
we're away.
So the weekend
taking me down to Lincoln.
It started raining on the Sunday, and Alistair and I were on the ferry heading to the South Island for Alistair to start Lincoln University.
About it, 10 metre swells.
10 metre swells. Took us 5 or 6 hours to get across anyway. That was exciting.
See you, Dad.
Yeah. So I dropped in Alistair at Lincoln University for his first year at Lincoln in 2004, and I came home. It was about 3 days before I got home. Gavin was actually at home, sort of just keeping hold of the fort. Older son, he was ready to go to Australia for a job interview for an ambulance job over there. And he called me and he said, I somehow got hold of us and said, Dad, we haven't got any power. The slips are all down all over the place. The gorge through the road, the track through the gorge is blocked. Blah blah blah. And I said, well, just do the best you can. And anyway, so he'd left. He'd headed to go to Australia before I got home. And the neighbour, Ian Harvey up the road, had come. They must have been in contact somehow. I'm not sure whether the phone was still going. I don't know, because there was no cell phones in those days.
Well, we didn't have reception there anyway.
No, we didn't. No. Anyway, Gavin and Ian had come down partway down the road, and then Gavin had hopped on the 4-wheeler and managed to get up through the farm part of the way, and then he had to walk a kilometre or something rather between these slips before Ian could pick him up and take him back up there, and then Popper came up.
I can't imagine why Gavin doesn't want to go farming.
Took him to the airport. Anyway, I got home on the Thursday, I think it was, and I picked up the bike from Ian Harvey's, and I drove down the road. The devastation was unbelievable. We had a 500 hectare farm that was in one block pretty much. Most of the fences, including the neighbours, we had 3,500 ewes in one mob that were mixed up with the neighbour's sheep. Then his 2,000, there was 5,000 sheep in the mob pretty much. Luckily, tupping hadn't quite started. That was so tupping was a month away.
Well, had it.
No, well, I actually had to drive out into the farm, and I just sat on the hillside and cried. I was on my own. We didn't say before, but Alistair's mum died in 1999, as a 46-year-old with breast cancer. I was on my own, although I had met up with Sharon, and she was farming in Marlborough, but I was there on my own for about a week, and I just
had
the only thing that you needed to do was
months.
and dropped you off.
Yeah.
And come back home to that.
Yeah.
And 30 years worth of work.
Yeah, well, down the drain. We had a major track that we went through a gorge that we'd put in the early 80s, 1980s, for access through this gorge, and we had a major crossing in there that had 3 750mm culvert pipes going through. Well, they were down the gully somewhere. There was a hole left.
Say how big they were again.
750mm pipes.
So nearly a metre.
Nearly a metre high. 3 of them. And they were
But did it stay there for...
20 years.
Yeah.
With other storms that we'd had. They were gone somewhere. And there was a hole that was about 20 metres long and 10 metres deep through this gorge, through this main track. That was the main access for stock and everything through
so probably
a third of the farm, maybe half. So just went to town, managed. Well, we managed to get a private contractor, and the guy that did our on farm work, which was Blackley's, from Palmerston North. They came in with a digger and opened the road for us. Although the council told us that we weren't allowed to do that because it was their job and they blah blah. And we said, well, we're getting this guy and he's going to open the road up for you. Stuff you go and get stuff.
We'll send you the bill.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway.
similar to Kakora, right?
Yeah.
You get that.
But the beauty in those days is you could pick up a bucket load of crap off the road and chuck it over the fence and down to the gully. Nowadays you have to pick it all up, put it on a truck and take it to a designated dump site somewhere. Anyway, so they worked on the road for about probably on the road for 2 weeks, getting the road cleared off till they got to the farm, and then they started on the farm work. Well, we probably had them there for 2 months, just clearing slips off main tracks. We didn't attack all the tracks, but the gorge track, we managed to put another steep track down into the creek and then climb back out the other side so we could get bike access and animal access through the gorge.
I think you showed me that when I came to visit. It was still pretty.
Oh yeah.
This is.
Well, even two years after that.
Yeah.
I mean, Genna and you were in Outley once, weren't you?
Yep.
And the devastation's still pretty obvious. Back then, 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The beauty, and I have to take my hat off to the Labour government. Helen Clark was Prime Minister in those days, and they put together a recovery package which was excellent for farmers in those days. We had to put a $100,000 bridge across the gorge and a steel bridge with concrete deck on it, which was done by Wanganui, Emmets from Wanganui. They were amazing. But the package that they put together was probably, they may have paid half the bill for all the reinstatement of infrastructure and stuff. But basically, as soon as the road was open, we went to town. You'd buy up rolls of netting and waratahs and run the netting out over where all the slips had come down through the fences. So you had some stop-proof fences. They had the Federated Farmers, I think, had a scheme where guys from all around the country would come and help. And I had 2 guys from Nelson Way, 2 farmers from Nelson that came and helped resurrect some fences. At one stage, they were there for about a week, 5 days or something.
The same as the kind of thing that happened after Gabriel.
Yes. So it was just so devastating. But it over the next, by 2000, I suppose, 2007, 2008, it was all pretty much all back up and running again. Took a long time to get things. We had this one major gully that ran down through the farm. There was one major culvert on it that, not the big one, but another one that accessed sort of a third of the farm at the top end. We replaced that culvert 3 times that year because we'd fix it up. We'd get another rainstorm. All the debris in the creeks would come down and block the culverts up again, and then over the top it'd go.
Well, it was all sand.
Very sandy, silty stuff.
So you try and the man who builds his house on sand.
Yeah.
Did you get to a point where it was okay again, or was it just always gonna?
No, it got to the stage by the time about 2007 came that it was all pretty stable again.
Yep.
Although what happened, the last few years with the flooding events up there, I'm not quite sure. But yeah.
But that leads on to not long after you put that farm up.
Yeah,
for
well,
sale.
so 2007. Well, it was through the monitor farm system makes you analyse everything.
Yeah.
And I sort of sat there, well, with help from others, and analysed everything. What the hell am I doing this for?
Well, you bought another block. You bought a wee bit of the neighbours as well.
Yeah. So that was good. So I employed a young guy to help me on the farm. Alistair was at Lincoln still, and thought, well, it's not really a big enough place even with 6,000 stock units for two people. So I bought 180 hectares off the neighbours. It was for sale. Put on another 1,000 ewes or something, 800 ewes, and we budgeted when I bought it. We budgeted on $42 for lamb that year, and we averaged 35. The bottom sort of fell out of everything again, as it does.
When
in
was
farm.
that? 2005.
Yeah, I suppose it was it? Yeah.
Must have been.
Yeah. And then the guy that I had working for me went great guns for a couple of years, and then I don't know what he got on, but
Didn't mean
the
well.
shit hit the fan, and I just Alistair had 3 boys. Only one of them wanted to go farming. I had a lot of family debt from the development or the splitting up of farms and stuff, and because I had the bigger property, it was done on a pro rata basis, so we had a lot of debt, and I sort of thought, what am I doing this for? Talked to the boys about it, and I put the farm on the market in 2007, sold it in September 2007, got really good money for it. I didn't, the whole farm never sold, the smaller block didn't sell. So that was another. I leased it out I shifted out in February 2008. We then had 4,000 ewes that we had to sell, and the whole of the country was in drought that summer, and I averaged $28 for 4,000 ewes, which was devastating as well. Within 6 months, they were bringing close to 100 because it had rain. Anyway, I couldn't do much about it, and as my accountant said, well, Chris, you sold the farm at good money. I did sell right at the top of and after that it sort of dropped away. So I picked it up on the sale of land, but missed out on probably couple $100,000 of stock sale income.
It's very unusual when all of the ducks line up in their row, though, isn't it?
Nobody wanted sheep. The whole
sheep,
country.
beef, and land.
Yeah.
The three are never all doing well.
So I sold that in 2008, shifted down to Marlborough where Sharon was farming. We'd got married about that time, and spent the next 15, 16 years of my life in the Marlborough Sounds at Linkwater, knocking a runoff block that she had bought there not long before that into shape, with electric fences all on the ground and no water supplies and gorse and broom and stuff all over.
Your first experience of gorse.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, so that was interesting. I just worked for Sharon on the farm there, didn't have any financial interest in it. I invested money into O'Donnell Park Barging in Picton, which was the Parks family business. Sharon's husband, Robert, had passed away with an accident in 2002. And so when I went down there, I was asked by the other 2-3 other shareholders if I wanted to invest in the company, and I said, yeah, sounds great. I put it in front of my accountant, and he said, geez, I wouldn't invest in that. They've only got one income stream, which was contracted to King Salmon, doing all the work for King Salmon Farm, the salmon farms in the Sounds. But I invested in that. I've made more money out of investing that than I ever did out of farming. Capital gain, it's just been amazing.
Return on investment.
Return on investment.
Yeah.
And then we've since taken it.
It's been diversified since then, though.
So that's my diversification. Yeah. And so we've also bought. We now own Kenny Barging in Picton and 50% of Johnson barging in Havelock.
And some other buildings,
And some bits
pieces
and
around.
pieces around. The barging, the O'Donnell Park barging was set up in 1996 to actually transport logs through the Sounds, was the original idea. And they bought a barge, Lana, from Brisbane and sailed it across Cook Strait with a few problems, 8 days or something. And it's still going strong. It's still costing us a fair bit of money in maintenance, but now we're doing. O'Donnell Park does all the only work O'Donnell Park does is for king salmon, and then around 50% of Johnson's is king salmon work. But they're the king salmon, New Zealand king salmon, are in an expansion mode at the moment. They're putting a farm in offshore in Cook Strait. Just in development stages at the moment, and it's quite exciting going ahead, looking at what might happen in the next 5 to 7 years with that business and with the barging companies. So, yeah.
There's always something to look ahead at.
Yeah. And well, outside farming, I'm involved in the Rural Support Trust in Marlborough. I've been involved since 2012, I think. Just before the Kaikoura earthquake, I became a trustee on that trust.
Do you think the effects of the flood and after that may have had a hand in putting you into
it certainly made me aware of the empathy that farmers needed.
Yeah, because that's similar to the help that you got is similar to what you give with the Rural Support Trust to other people over there.
And then I'm also very involved in the Vintage Car Club in Marlborough, secretary of the local branch, got a couple of old cars and go around with taking these guys and their family grandkids on a few trips.
And that keeps you on the road.
It keeps me on the road and keeps me out of mischief.
Yeah.
No, very good. Oh, it's been we've covered a fair bit, and it's stretching on. So we might leave that there. Any questions or comments? Just chuck them in the video, and we'll try and answer them. But
just one thing I'll say, that Alistair and Genna are doing a bloody good job on this farm here. They've got so many ideas. They've got so much more support, if you like, and the technology that's coming into farming now is amazing compared to what it was in 2007, 2008, where I was farming sheep. It's just amazing, and they're doing a really good job, and I've got to take my hat off to you guys for what you've done. And you've got
Well, I wonder where all those innovative ideas
yeah, well,
and the culture
your
and
dad
the
as well, and
context.
yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, like when you lay these things out and you can see why, because our personalities are very different.
Yeah.
But you can see the background and how we do things. It just goes so far back.
Yeah.
And it's just what works.
And once again, my experience with my dad, farming with him, and even probably his father up to a point, although he was a bit of a anyway. He was pretty tough, but my experiences, my dad's experiences have
all shapes.
rubbed off on him as well with what we've been and come through. So
try and take the good and not repeat mistakes.
Yes.
And some mistakes have to be repeated because that's the only way to get the solution that works for you.
As an older person, I suppose my father always told me as well, you tell your kids never to make this mistake because it doesn't work. You can't do it this way because it doesn't work, but they actually have to try it and work it out themselves.
Did he say that when you went to the army? Yeah, but it's true. Yeah. And so, then that continues with us.
Right, I remember myself and Dad's dad clashing. Yeah, just as a young fella, you got to make your own mistakes.
History.
Every generation. Yeah. Right, we'll leave that there. Thanks very much for watching. Something a bit different.
And
hopefully you like it. And
thank you, Chris, for sharing.
That's all right.
What? How many years? How many decades there? A few decades.
Couple. 7.
7?
Oh, 7
decades.
7.5. Yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.